The 1970s were a time of rapid industrialization and technological advancement. But with that came many jobs that, by today's standards, would be considered downright dangerous. Without the safety regulations and modern equipment we have now, many workers in the 1970s faced significant risks on the job. Over time, as technology evolved and safety standards improved, these hazardous occupations either disappeared or were drastically transformed. Let's take a look at 10 risky jobs from the 1970s that disappeared over time. In the 1970s, asbestos was widely used in construction for its fire-resistant properties, and thousands of workers were employed in asbestos mining and processing. Unfortunately, the risks of asbestos exposure, such as lung cancer and mesothelioma, were not fully understood until later. With the eventual banning of asbestos in many countries, asbestos mining became obsolete, and the industry all but disappeared. Before digital switchboards and automated systems, telephone operators manually connected calls by plugging cables into the right circuits. These jobs required long hours of repetitive motion and focus, with workers facing risks like muscle strain, eye fatigue, and even carpal tunnel syndrome. Automation in the telecommunications industry eliminated the need for these operators, making the job disappear by the 1980s. Long before modern refrigerators became household staples, ice delivery was a common and physically demanding job. Ice delivery workers hauled massive blocks of ice, often in dangerous conditions, including slippery roads and cold environments. By the 1970s, electric refrigeration had become widespread, and the demand for home-delivered ice gradually faded, taking this risky job with it. Coal mining has always been a dangerous job, but in the 1970s, miners faced even greater risks due to insufficient safety regulations. From cave-ins to black lung disease caused by inhaling coal dust, miners worked in treacherous conditions. Today, stricter regulations and advancements in mining technology have improved conditions, but many coal mines have closed, and fewer people work in this hazardous field. The golden age of Hollywood action films in the 1970s meant there was high demand for stunt performers. However, the safety gear and precautions we see today were not always in place back then. Stuntmen frequently performed death-defying acts with minimal protection, leading to numerous injuries and even fatalities. As the industry became more regulated and special effects technology improved, many of the riskier stunts have been replaced by safer alternatives. In the 1970s, long-distance truck drivers were often pushed to the limit, driving for extended hours without the strict regulations that exist today. Fatigue, poor road conditions, and unreliable vehicles made this a perilous job. Over time, stricter laws governing driving hours and better highway infrastructure have reduced many of the risks, but the grueling nature of trucking in the 70s is a thing of the past. Working as a high-voltage lineman in the 1970s involved maintaining power lines at extreme heights, often in severe weather conditions. Without the advanced safety equipment and protocols of today, linemen face the constant risk of electrocution, falls, and other life-threatening accidents. While the job still exists, modern technology has made it far safer than it was in the 1970s. Before desktop publishing, typesetting was done manually, and the job came with a surprising number of risks. Workers in printing shops were exposed to toxic chemicals like lead, as well as repetitive motion injuries from assembling type by hand. The shift to digital printing technology made typesetting safer, and the manual typesetter role vanished almost entirely by the 1980s. Building the towering skyscrapers of the 1970s meant that steelworkers had to work hundreds of feet above the ground, balancing on narrow beams with little more than a hard hat for protection. Falls, burns, and heavy machinery accidents were common, and many workers faced serious injuries. Over the decades, advancements in safety harnesses and regulations have made construction work safer, but the death-defying steelwork of the 1970s is a thing of the past. Logging in the 1970s was an incredibly dangerous job. Workers wielded heavy manual chainsaws to cut down massive trees, often in remote areas without immediate medical help. Falling trees, equipment malfunctions, and difficult terrain contributed to a high rate of serious injuries and fatalities. With the introduction of modern machinery and stricter safety protocols, logging has become less perilous, though it remains physically demanding. The 1970s brought with it many jobs that were physically demanding, risky, and often deadly. As time has progressed, technological advancements and improved safety standards have eliminated or transformed these hazardous occupations, making the workplace a much safer environment for modern workers. While these jobs may have been essential at the time, it's a relief to know that the dangers faced by workers in these fields are largely behind us.